Hello, everyone, and welcome to this overview of the water rate review completed by the Comox Valley Regional District for 4 local water service areas: Union Bay, Royston, the Comox Valley Service Area, and Black Creek Oyster Bay. We're recording this presentation today so that residents can get more information about water fee increases that are coming in those 4 service areas. We're hosting open houses in each community as well, but we understand that not everyone is able to attend, and so we hope this video will help provide the information that you need. The beginning of this presentation is relevant for all 4 of the service areas, and then we will focus in on each of the individual areas one after the other. Once we're through this initial part of the presentation, feel free to skip ahead to the area that is important to you. We've separated it by title pages and by color to hopefully make it easy for you to identify the information that you need. Details about the open houses and how you can get more information afterwards or who to ask questions of are available at the very end of this presentation. So with that, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Chris LaRose, the Senior Manager of Water and Wastewater Services. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Colleen, and hello, everyone. Thanks for watching this overview. There's been a lot of review and planning work completed to get to this stage, and I'm hoping that this presentation can give you an understanding of how this review of water rates has led to the planned increase in the years to come. We'll also map out what that increase will look like and why these decisions have been made. So let's start with why we're here. There are a few key drivers behind this effort, and they can generally be summarized as our recognized responsibility to plan for the future needs of these communities. Why? Well, a key reason is for reliability and sustainability of our services. Our water systems are aging, and to ensure that they are able to continue reliably providing services, plans have been made for the long-term replacement and upkeep of them. Knowing that our water systems are aging, it's important that we budget for replacement of them. With almost all water mains needing replacement over the next 10 to 20 years, the CVRD needs to plan and budget to replace them. When we know that there are required replacements coming up, we need to financially prepare now. If we don't save for the future replacements now, our ability to provide safe, affordable drinking water into the future will be challenged. Preparing now ensures fairness for users throughout the system's life cycle. So with all that in mind, through 2022 and 2023, we completed a comprehensive water rate review looking at the water systems of 4 services. So a little bit more about asset management planning. Asset management plans are a way to keep track of infrastructure as it ages, maintenance of the infrastructure, condition of the infrastructure, and risks associated with each individual section. And then include development of recommended timing of replacements, considering all of these factors. So we initially started this process with development of asset management plans for the water services in 2019. The follow-up steps of financial planning and rate increases were postponed due to COVID-19 impacts. We learned as we completed the asset management plans that the majority of the assets in these water services are water mains and that they were installed in the 1970s and 1980s. They're largely asbestos concrete with a typical lifespan of 50 to 70 years. What that means is that in the next 20 years, we're nearing the end of life for most of these water mains. With that in mind, it's time to plan ahead. Asset management plans help to avoid service interruptions. They include an assessment of the condition and the risk of the infrastructure and how critical each asset is so that we can prioritize replacements and ensure that the water is there when we need it. So let's look more at what a comprehensive water rate review is and what it entails. So this process included 4 key stages that began a few years ago. We started first with an asset inventory and management plan in 2019. This inventory and management plan took stock of all of our current infrastructure, identifying age, condition, and criticality of the different components that we're responsible for across the region. Once the inventory was complete, a replacement and maintenance schedule was created, allowing us to look ahead to what upgrades are on the horizon. With that in hand, we undertook a financial planning process to determine what was needed in order to pay for the required replacements ahead. This includes understanding what will be needed for ongoing operations and maintenance and for capital costs for the replacements. It was clear that the current rates of water are not sufficient to meet the long-term financial needs of these services. So once the costs of upgrades and timing for replacements were clear, we developed options to offer different degrees of rate increases to meet the necessary levels of funding. With all that information in hand, electoral area directors and the project team held a workshop to identify the plan forward for each area. And this considered many things, in particular, the cost impacts for residents and balancing the interests of current and future users. The CVRD understands that any rate increase is difficult for ratepayers, and that increases to water rates might be only one of a few cost increases they'll see in the years to come. So a key focus throughout this process has been on how to prepare for asset replacements in the future while minimizing the impact of the costs on residents. With our understanding of the asset management plans, we were able to complete long-term financial models. And these include two key components: the operations and maintenance of our infrastructure, and these costs are covered by user rates. And then the second piece is the capital costs of any infrastructure replacement. And these are the larger projects that will be paid for through a mix of reserves and borrowing. Funds for this will be collected through parcel taxes. So user rates and parcel taxes. The increases for user fees and parcel taxes will be different for each service area, depending on the infrastructure needs, the condition of the infrastructure, and how well the current rates are performing. We'll walk through each of the service areas in the upcoming slides, but there are a few universal assumptions that we made for all. For example, the long-term financial modeling assumed that a 2.5% inflation factor on all operations and maintenance costs beyond the current 5-year financial plan. It also assumed that we would replace like for like in the case of infrastructure replacements, and that any upsizing required for development would be paid through development cost charges rather than borne by the existing users of the service. If you have any questions about the further assumptions made or details of the financial modeling, we'd be happy to chat further. So please don't hesitate to reach out. But most importantly, though, as we looked at the forecast, both financially and operationally, for these water service areas, we knew that there would need to be rate increases. And the CVRD is focused on those rates being structured to be sustainable. Sustainable while considering fairness, promoting conservation, and achieving full cost recovery for the service. So directors were given 3 rate increase options for each area, all of which would achieve the forecasted level of necessary funding, but at different speeds. Catching up more quickly would require the biggest rate hikes initially. Taking more time would allow for the changes to be smaller, but would cost more overall in the long term. Proposed fee rate increases were mapped out for electoral area directors and discussed at a workshop this fall. We'll walk through the options presented and the decisions made in the slides ahead. With all that said, we're now going to walk through each service area, highlighting the key factors about the assets in those areas and the resulting fee changes. We'll move from the south end of the CVRD northward, starting with Union Bay using orange, Royston with purple highlights, Comox Valley Water Service highlighted with teal, and the Black Creek Oyster Bay in a light navy color. If you want to skip ahead to your area, you can watch for the title page with those colors. So let's dive in with Union Bay Water Local Service Area, which became a CVRD service in 2021 when the Union Bay Improvement District converted. So the Union Bay's services assets include water storage, including the reservoir and dam at Langley Lake, pressure reducing valves, to help deal with the change in elevation between pieces or sections of the system, the new water treatment facility that was completed in 2020, and over 30 kilometers of water mains to tie all of that together and provide service to our homes. As we mapped out the age and replacement schedule of these assets, you can see here that beginning late in the 2020s, the need to replace water mains increases and carries through nearly to nearly 2040. We're also forecasting a significant project related to water storage, the dam, in about 25 years, while major electrical and mechanical components of the new treatment facility will require replacement in the 2060s. We need to start setting aside funds for all of these projects in the short and long term. So there are increases to the two key fee components, being user rates and parcel taxes. For user rates, a rate increase is required off the top to cover all operating and maintenance expenses for the service. The plan ahead will include a 3% increase in 2024, which includes the 2.5% inflation rate, a 2.5% increase in 2025, and then a 1.5% increase in subsequent years. And this is 1% lower than inflation due to anticipated growth in the area and expectation that those new connections will help improve the economies of scale. So they partially offset the inflationary effects on the service. For parcel tax rates, three options were presented, ranging from a short-term but high-impact increase of over 21% for 5 years to a smaller increase of about 9% spread out over a longer period. The 15-year approach was selected by electoral area directors for the Union Bay service. So what does that look like in the end? Well, it'll depend on how much water you use, but we've provided this estimate based on the average water user. He uses about 158 cubic meters per year in the Union Bay system. So currently for the parcel tax, the fee would be $510 and user rates would be $848 for a total of about $1,358. So with the increases, next year would be $1,428, which would be $554 for parcel tax and $874 for user rates, an increase of about $70. Looking ahead, it's about that amount more each year as we calculate it out to 2028. As noted, these rates will come into effect next year and are paid for through utility bills, which are quarterly, and your annual property tax, which is paid annually. Okay, next we'll walk through Royston's water local service areas updates. So Royston currently draws water from the village of Cumberland's water system, with its source at Allen Lake. So the service's water infrastructure assets include 2 reservoirs, 6 pressure reducing valves to manage the water coming down the hill, a rechlorination station just to make sure that we have the appropriate levels of chlorine in the pipes, and about 44 kilometers of water mains. Mapping out asset planning for Royston was a little different because of the Water South Extension project, which is in early planning stages. The current water supply agreement with Cumberland requires that the CVRD find an alternate water source for Royston as water demands within the village increase due to growth. So the CVRD is working with partners Comox First Nation and the City of Courtenay to extend water servicing to the area. So we've included the capital costs expected for this project in the financial model, though there will be an additional connection fee to join the Comox Valley Water Service that's not accounted for here. As you can see, there is a rolling water main replacement schedule that picks up in the late 2020s and peaks in about the mid 2030s, but remains steady for decades to come. We expect to be about 40 years away from a significant storage related project for the system that shows up in the later part of this graph. And looking ahead at the financial plans for this work. Again, here are plans for rate increases to the 2 key fee components, the user rates and parcel taxes. For user rates, an additional boost in the first 5 years is necessary, but then will relax after 2028. And this means a 7% increase in 2024 through 2028 annually, which includes the 2.5% inflation rate, and a 2.5% increase to align with inflation in the years following that. For parcel tax rates, the three options were presented, ranging from a short-term but high-impact increase of over 34% annually for 5 years to a smaller increase of about 15% annually, and then down to 8% spread out over a longer period. So the 15-year approach was selected by directors for the Royston service. And that means a 15% increase annually from 2024 to 2033, and then 8% beyond. So what does that look like for Royston ratepayers? Well, it'll depend on how much water you use, but we've provided this estimate based on the average water user, who uses about 248 cubic meters per year. So currently for parcel tax, the fee would be $200 and user rates would be 605 for a total of 805. With the increases next year would be 877 in total, 230 for parcel tax and 647 for user rates. An increase of 22% each year would mean increases of about between $70 to $90 per year through to the end of 2028. As noted on the previous slide, this cost includes the capital costs identified in the Water South Extension Service, but not the connection charge. That connection charge is currently estimated to be about $450 per year from 2027 to 2036, so for 10 years. As noted, these rates will come into effect next year and are paid for through utility bills that are billed quarterly and your annual property tax billed annually. Now on to the Comox Valley Water Local Service Area, which covers Arden Road, England Road, Greaves Crescent, and Marsden Camco and Sandwick areas. All of the assets for this service are water mains, nearly 90 kilometers of them. These residents connect to the new Comox Valley Water Treatment Plant and related infrastructure there. As you can see, there is a significant investment needed to replace those water mains in the coming years. Upgrades are scheduled to begin next year and will continue to gain momentum for the next 15 years before slowing down again. So with keeping that forecast in mind, here are the anticipated rate increases to the two key fee components, user rates and parcel taxes. For user rates, an initial boost to rates is necessary next year to help achieve the necessary funding levels. After that first bump, it'll continue at the 2.5% inflation rate. So there'll be a 9% increase in 2024, which includes the 2.5% inflation rate, and then an annual 2.5% increase to align with inflation over the following years. For parcel tax rates, three options were presented, ranging from a short-term but high-impact increase for 5 years to a longer-term increase that reduces the spike but continues on longer. So the 15-year approach was selected by directors for the Comox Valley service. That means a 25% increase from 2024 through 2028 annually, and then a 19.8% increase beyond per year. So what does that look like for ratepayers in this area? Well, it'll depend on how much water you use, but we've provided this estimate based on the average water user who uses about 262 cubic meters per year. So currently for the parcel tax, the fee would be $99 and user rates would be 446 for a total of about 545. With the increases, next year would be 610 in total, which is 125 for parcel tax and 485 for user rates. An increase of about $65 in 2024, and then about between $43 to $72 per year through to the end of 2028. As noted, these rates will come into effect next year and are paid through utility bills that are billed quarterly and your annual property tax billed annually. And finally, we'll cover the Black Creek Oyster Bay Local Water Service Area. So the Black Creek Oyster Bay service is unique in that it draws water from groundwater wells and a river infiltration gallery. It also includes 2 reservoirs, a booster pump station, a treatment facility, and nearly 50 kilometers in water mains. As you can see from the asset replacement schedule, there are some mechanical new pumps and electrical upgrades to supply infrastructure required in the near term, along with the ongoing water main replacements that all areas are preparing for in the next 15 to 20 years. So with that in mind, here are the anticipated rate increases to the two key fee components, user rates and parcel taxes, which are currently called frontage taxes for this service area, but are anticipated to be converted to a parcel tax in 2024. So for user rates, there will be a 2.5% increase to match inflation for the foreseeable future, and that part's fairly straightforward. For parcel taxes, this will be new to Black Creek Oyster Bay ratepayers who have historically paid a frontage fee instead. As part of these changes, the CVRD will replace the frontage fee with a parcel tax, which better ensures that all participants in the service are paying an equal share of all the assets. For the rates of the new parcel tax, three options were presented, ranging from a short-term but high-impact increase for 5 years, to longer-term increase that reduces the spikes in year 2, but continues on for longer. The 10-year approach was selected by directors for the Black Creek Oyster Bay service. So that means a 25% increase in 2024, and then 27% per year increase from 2025 through 2033. After that, the increase will reduce to 3%, matching inflation seen on capital projects within the CVRD. So what does that look like for the average Black Creek Oyster Bay ratepayer? Again, it'll depend on how much water you use, but we provided this estimate based on the average water user who uses about 243 cubic meters per year. So currently for frontage fee, the fee would be $1.24 per foot, and user rates would be $421 for the average frontage. And average user, this works out to about $581 per year. With the increases, next year would be about $629 in total, $197 for parcel tax and $432 for user rates. An increase of about $38 in 2024, and then between $64 up to $121 per year of increases from the current rates through to the end of 2028. As noted, these rates will come into effect next year and are paid for through utility bills billed quarterly and your annual property tax billed annually. So that wraps up the technical information we had prepared for the presentation. There's much more that has been considered, and if you're interested in more details about the assets and planning or the financial analysis and related assumptions, we encourage you to be in touch. We also hope we'll see you at an upcoming event as well. I'll pass it back to Colleen to share the details of those events.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, as Chris mentioned, we're hosting open houses in each of the service areas to share information about the water rate review and how it will impact residents in that area specifically. So we hope you'll be able to join us on November 23rd for the Union Bay Water Service area at the Union Bay Community Hall, or on November 27th for the Royston Service area at Fallen Alders Hall, or November 28th for the Comox Valley Water Service area at the CVRD's Civic Room in Courtney, or November 30th for the Black Creek Oyster Bay Service area at the Oyster River Fire Hall. We thank you again to everyone on the project team for the work on this and all the information provided to date, and we hope this presentation has been helpful for you, the viewer. For any other questions or for more information, you can visit comoxvalleyrd.ca/water rates. We will also be posting the open house materials there once the events have been hosted. Or you can call or email with any questions you have for the project team, and they'd be happy to give more information. Finally, please share this video with anyone else that you think might be interested or who might not be able to attend the open houses. We know this is important information for everybody. Thank you and have a great day.